Thing. It's just like boom, we're live once again. No spinny thing anymore. Just straight to being live. That. What's
Boom,
up,
we're
wrestling
live.
fans? What's up?
It's the Two Bros Wrestling Show live on on a Sunday night without a pay-per-view. Not
Sunday,
the case
Sunday,
next
Sunday.
week. We'll
Oh,
address that here in a bit though, because what our main event topic tonight, Doug, for the people tuning in at home, we're going to talk pretty easy one tonight. Overvalued, undervalued. Everyone's got an opinion on this. So we want to know what everyone else's opinions are, because sometimes the way we view the men and women in the ring is maybe not the way that maybe we don't value them in the same way as a Tony Khan or Vince McMahon, let's just say. Not all the time. So it should be fun to see who we think is maybe pushed a little too hard, and who needs that little bit of an uplift.
this is going to be fun. This is going to be interesting. I wonder if any of us have any controversial picks on either side.
I tried to make it so. There's some things that everybody can all agree on, right? I think there's some things that we
Exactly.
can all agree on.
Exactly.
And I tried to not like go for my favorite, under the radar indie talent that's thus far been overlooked. I wanted to get
Yes.
some names out there that
Yes.
people would recognize, because we all look at this stuff differently. But it'll be fun. We want to know what you think too, so make sure you drop that in the comments. But Doug,
Do we have the bell? Do we have the?
we'll see.
Yes.
All
Bell.
right. I think I got my, I don't know, something with the earbuds and the Bluetooth last week. I think I'm hearing the bell that no one else heard. So I think we actually have a bell, which means now it's an official match.
Oh, okay. Should we
Yeah,
lock
last
up?
week must have been unofficial, because
It
no
was
one ever heard that
unsanctioned.
opening bell. That was unsanctioned match. Hey, get ready to pay a little more for your WWE content. If you've not heard, for the first time in its history, Peacock has announced a rate increase that is going to affect most of the people tuning into this. I am very sure. That is beginning immediately if you are not a current subscriber. If you are a current subscriber, you got one more billing cycle. If you're signing up now, you're going to pay the new price. Price for a standard Peacock subscription is raising to $5.99. It moves to $11.99 for the
what?
Premium Plus plan. That's an increase of $1 and $2 respectively. I don't know, Doug, especially when you consider the frequent rate hikes in the streaming industry. This isn't exactly. This is pretty modest, and honestly, it leaves Peacock's price point as pretty well below what most streaming outlets have. So I don't see this as being a deal breaker for anybody but the most cash-strapped wrestling fan.
I agree, but it would probably be beneficial for people who watch a lot of stuff on Peacock. I can't even tell you what's on Peacock besides WWE programming. That's the only reason I have Peacock.
Actually, Peacock is kind of like under the radar with a lot of its original programming. Poker Face, Mrs. Davis. We just started watching The Resort. There's some actually good stuff on there that, other than just WWE and The Office, which is what a lot of people, I think, still think that Peacock is. So what I'm saying, Doug, is you need to explore the rest of your subscription. If you just weren't so busy watching wrestling all the time,
Right.
you could watch some more programming.
The only more programming I can watch would be more wrestling because it's on all the time. I'm probably missing something we're going to talk about next week right now.
Well, speaking of things you need to watch, Doug, next week we will see the Peacock will debut the much anticipated documentary on Cody Rhodes. Peacock, much less so than the old WWE Network days, has a lot less of these sorts of things, so it's kind of bigger news. And it was always one of my favorite things about my WWE Network subscription is the non-in-ring programming was always really strong. So this looks pretty good. The word came, though, this week that the documentary is going to include footage from the original All In pay-per-view.
Nice.
That led to the founding of AEW, as well as footage of Cody signing with All Elite Wrestling. It is important to note that in both of these instances, the footage is from Being the Elite. So reports are that Nick and Matt Jackson have given their permission for this to be used. There will not be footage of Cody in his time in AEW. Supposedly there is a lot of the talking heads and of course being interviewed that talk about AEW. How much of that actually makes the final cut and what they choose to make the final cut is, of course, something we'll have to wait and see. But obviously, you can't tell a complete story on Cody Rhodes and his return, if you would, or his redemption story. It's just incomplete without that several year period of time when he was helping to found All Elite Wrestling.
Right. It's not like he left WWE and was just gone for 6 years, hanging out at home and then came back.
It would be very disingenuous if they, didn't cover it. And, I honestly think that AEW and WWE, while competitors, we saw it once before when like Jericho went and on Stone Cold's podcast. I think WWE is big enough, a number one, to not so much worry about AEW being mentioned. So I think that, especially to keep Cody happy, they'll probably cover it fairly in depth. One thing that you won't hear, though, and that the same report said this, is you're not going to hear how Cody and Tony Khan parted ways. Reportedly, there's a non-disclosure agreement between the two that keeps that particular falling out in the closet.
Interesting.
Former ROH World Champion and current AEW superstar Rush may be headed to Stamford, Connecticut. That's right.
Yeah.
Reports are WWE are heavily interested in the 34-year-old. Why wouldn't you be? Rush recently cut ties with AAA, where he was doing some double duty in addition to his duties in AEW. But he hasn't been on AEW since, I think the end of May was the last time he was on air. So it's unclear exactly when that AEW contract is up, but the Wrestling Observer has reported that Tony Khan is trying desperately to extend the star. The report noted that the current AEW offer on the table for Rush is much bigger than anyone in NXT is making. Therefore, WWE might either be needing to give him main roster kind of money or give him that kind of money and put him immediately on the main roster if they want him to jump ship. Doug, what do you think is the most likely outcome of this?
I think Rush will stay where he is. I think, they've got one brother already in NXT. Dragon Lee's in NXT, right? So I don't see Rush making that move because I think he will get his AEW money, and I don't think WWE wants to put out that kind of cash for Rush. That I don't think he carries that brand name recognition where they can just stick him in the front in a main roster slot.
Do you think that if Tony Khan invests that amount of money in him, that they might actually do a little more to feature the man? Because I loved him in Ring of Honor when he was Ring of Honor World
needs
Champion.
A push. Absolutely. I did it. I'm sorry.
Oh, wow.
That's my dad joke for the night.
That is, yeah. It's the two bros wrestling dad show. Push to Rush. Hey, I can't argue with that.
Needs a push, man.
Rush definitely needs that push. What he needs is some cash, and it sounds like one way or the other he's going to get it.
Yeah, good for him.
Good for him. Not so good for people is this next story. So Elton Prince from Pretty Deadly suffered a fairly significant shoulder injury during last Friday's SmackDown match that had Pretty Deadly going against the Brawling Brutes. No word on how long exactly he'll be at, but how long he will be out. But in a related sad just state of the internet story, Ridge Holland from the Brutes has deactivated his social media over accusations and criticism that he has received because of the injury to Prince. It's really less honestly about Elton's injury and instead how many unkind internet folks have begun to call out Holland for the possible career-ending injury that Big E suffered, because Big E was wrestling Ridge Holland at the time that injury was sustained. It should be pointed out, though, that there was no heat on Holland over the Big E injury, even from Big E himself, who knows that these sorts of accidents are just a hazard of the profession. You go back and look at what happened to Elton Prince on SmackDown, not this Friday, but the past Friday. It looks the same. It's just Elton fell the wrong way after a back body drop. It didn't seem to be any carelessness. There should be no heat on Ridge Holland, especially to the point a man has to deactivate his social media. Let's just be kind online. Let's not spread hate towards the men and women who are risking their own health for our entertainment. That's just nonsense.
Absolutely. I mean, accidents do happen. It's an unfortunate coincidence that we have two superstars that have been injured in the ring with Holland. Well, Biggie's injury was actually right outside of the ring, but you know what I'm saying.
That actually has more to do with
Yeah.
what happened there than anything on Reg Holland, is whoever planned to have that be an outside the ring maneuver called.
Yeah. Sorry, I just realized something I'm making a note. It has absolutely nothing to do with Ridge Holland.
I'm going to say, if you're spreading hate, are you typing something hateful right now online?
I should stop.
Are you
threading.
trolling?
I'm going to stop tweeting and threading about Ridge Holland right now. Sorry about that.
There we go. Good luck to Elton Prince on rehabbing his injury, and let's all just be kind.
Hey, and at least he's still on TV. I mean, he can work through that injury. I mean, he can't work, but he can do outside of the ring stuff. Like,
fortunately, he is big enough of a character too that he's able to do that.
Absolutely,
and good for him for being so.
Yeah.
Ray Phoenix has stepped away from AAA. I know I mentioned Roosh earlier. AAA's taken some hits down in Mexico this week.
Conan better get his act together.
I think you and I now might be able to, there's a lot of vacant championships. Maybe we have an opportunity to step in.
We can start that Appalachian World Order we always wanted to.
Right now we have a AAA Latin American and a Cruiserweight championship that is vacated. Ray Phoenix held both of those belts. He won them both at Triple Mania in June last year. Even though we're a year beyond him winning those, he never defended either title. And he said the reason he's stepping away from Triple H.
Hello, Floyd.
I know, right? The reason he's stepping away from AAA as well as vacating those titles is because he said his schedule with both promotions is just way too much to keep up with, and he realized he had not been able to defend those titles yet, and therefore he was going to relinquish them so that someone else could grab them. So it won't be Roosh. We know that.
It will probably be Vikingo at this point.
Who I'm surprised hasn't stepped away and just taken Tony Khan's money either, but that might be just a matter of time, right?
It probably will, actually.
Speaking of Tony Khan and his money, Bryan Danielson has provided an update on the injury he sustained during the main event of Forbidden Door. Bryan underwent successful surgery on his broken arm 2 weeks ago, as it turns out, where he had a steel rod and 9 screws implanted in his arm. In the media scrum following Forbidden Door, Danielson said he expected to miss 6 to 8 weeks, but of course that was before he knew just how bad that break was.
Right.
Might be additional time beyond what we now, we're thinking that 6 to 8 weeks would be coming up pretty soon. Mm-hmm. No official word from Bryan on exactly when he'll be returning to the ring, but hopefully that will happen soon. And then finally, Doug, we're going to end our opening bell segment with a bit of a programming update. I know you have enough to watch, but you got to set your DVRs for this, folks. This Friday sees the premiere of season 2 of the pro wrestling drama Heels on Stars. So if you're ready, like Doug and I, to see the Spade brothers back in the ring for the Duffy Wrestling League, tune in. The weekly episodes air Fridays at 10 on Stars, or if you watch via the Stars app, you get those episodes early, beginning at midnight on Fridays. Good stuff. If those folks that have never watched it, you have this week to binge season 1 to get ready for season 2.
Season 1 is excellent. It really
absolutely
is
excellent. Even if maybe you feel differently about one of the minor players.
I'm not sure I'm going to feel the same about Rabbit Ricky or Ricky Rabbit or whatever. I can't even think of the character's name now, but he made my list, Kevin. I'll say that. He made my list.
For those who don't know, we're talking CM Punk. If you've not seen Heels, CM Punk has a small recurring role. And in fact, Doug, this year, so does his wife. So in season 2, we're going to see
really?
AJ Lee as well. Yeah, I actually, in the previews for the second season of Heels, I did not see CM Punk, but I did see AJ Lee several times. So she might actually have a significant role.
I'm wondering if she's playing a wrestler then, because I've seen some recent images of her, and she is fit and vicious, looking much more fit than she ever did when she worked for WWE.
Yeah, you're probably thinking, at least in her mind, that you're about to be seen by a lot more people than you were in your wrestling days. So
True.
who knows?
True.
I will be tuning in. I know you will be too. It is great, folks. So definitely catch that. And with that,
Woo!
with the news out of the way, it is time for the main event. As we mentioned at the top of the hour, we're talking undervalued and overvalued. Doug, before we even get started, I want to do a disclaimer for my picks. Just because we're talking about folks here as maybe being overvalued does not mean that we think they're not talented or that things can change. Look at the way that you and I both changed when it comes to Jamie Hayter, for example.
Absolutely.
If you and I had done this show 5 years ago, I guarantee one, if not both of us, would have mentioned Roman Reigns as being one of the most overvalued wrestlers in wrestling. So this is not no one wants anyone to lose their jobs. Is all I'm saying. This is not a slam on the men and women that we're about to discuss. A lot of times it's not as much, not even always up to the wrestler themselves. It's sometimes the way that they are presented and booked. And sometimes that's completely on the writers and the promoters. So with that said,
and you could not have said it better. So, yeah.
Before we talk smack, I wanted to make sure that people knew we don't take this personal. Because it does. It changes quite a bit. And
I really think does.
So that, I don't know. To me, undervalued is it's way easier to talk about and maybe way harder to narrow down because we all have our favorites that we want to see pushed. Like, this guy, that girl, this team. I could have came up with a list 5 times longer than this. I concentrated on 3 and 3. So let's do undervalued first because I think the overvalued might be the more controversial. The undervalued might be things that people mostly agree on.
Yeah.
Doug, you want to go first or I can go first?
Undervalued first? I'll go. So my first pick on undervalued is actually, I guess officially right now he's in between promotions. We can't say he's WWE. He's not he's no longer AEW. He's not Ring of Honor, but there is a tremendous amount of talent and name recognition. If it's not with him, it's with his father. But I think AEW in his time there could have done much more with Brian Pillman Jr. I really, really think there was a lot of talent there. His program with MJF was great. I thought this was going to be his push and break something away. I had no problem with the Varsity Blondes. Griff Garrison is a fair enough wrestler, but I really thought that Brian Pillman Jr. had something and could finally, move out of that shadow of his father and ascend to something bigger and better in AEW. Now, word on the wrestling streets is that he may be talking to WWE or may already be contracted with them. So I would imagine if that's true, we're going to see him on NXT because I don't think he's main roster yet. But
I don't know that. I don't even know I would want to see him on the main roster. I think someone right now, at least I'm picturing dropping Pillman Jr. into that current NXT roster, and I like the sound of that a lot, actually.
So,
but AEW definitely missed the boat on him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they had him. I don't get it.
It'd be one thing if you just, I know I said I wasn't going to talk smack, and here I go. We're not talking no. David Flair here, and
no.
And I mean that with all due respect to David Flair, who would admit he was not ready for what he got put into. This isn't someone writing the names of a famous father. In fact, by calling himself Brian Pillman Jr., he may be hurting himself by the association with his troubled dad. But Pillman Jr. is a huge talent, and I can't believe that he never went higher on the card in AEW than what he did.
I know. I really thought that program, that brief program with MJF would have led to something, but at the end of the day, it led to the Varsity Blondes breaking up and him.
Julia Hart moving on. Actually, Julia Hart's the only one of those 3 who's doing anything.
Really, I'm not sure if Griff Garrison is even still with.
Exactly.
I mean, he could be. I guess Griff could be a Jungle Boy stunt double, but
Well, yeah, especially now that that role is open.
Well, that's true. Although kudos to Jack Perry for finally dropping the Jungle Boy, but
Yeah, same. Yeah.
he's not on my list though. So, what about
No,
you?
no. I'm going tag team to begin with
All right.
here, just because I wanted to get a tag team in, and I'll do this in a way of a comparison because as I was writing this one up, for an old school mark like me, what's happened to these folks is like what happened to the sheep herders back in the day when they turned them into the bushwhackers. Both, the sheep herders were this bloodthirsty, hardcore, dangerous, scary team, and they come to the WWE, they got turned into a cartoon. The Viking Raiders.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's a good
I
one.
mean, Viking Raiders were legitimately a scary, tough tag team on the Indies and in Ring of Honor, and
War
WWE
Machine.
turned them
Yes.
into a cartoon when they were War Machine. I think that's where it actually started. That awful name they gave them, and ever since they've been a bit of a joke. Not that they don't have good matches. I mean, the talent is obviously still there. This the same guys. I just don't know that too many people in the wrestling industry or wrestling fans would consider them as one of the top tag teams in the business today. Back when War Machine was around, they were, I thought, one of the best tag teams in the business. And that's completely on not the Viking Raiders. That's completely on WWE.
Yeah, that totally is. Remember that brief period? What was it, like a week when they were the Viking Experience? They were like a Disney ride for like a week or something. It was ridiculous.
They never could get it right, and I think that just got them off to the wrong foot. And nothing they've done since then has righted the course. One of the reasons I wanted to be sure to get a tag team on this list is because I not only see it as a weakness for the way the Viking Raiders are pushed, it's just a weakness for WWE. It's just part of their history that, outside of that hot period in the 90s when you had the Dudleys, the Hardys, Edge and Christian, WWE was never known as tag team, a place for tag teams to flourish. It was always a singles territory. So it's really WWE who is undervaluing its entire tag team division. And I say that because it's doubly true. It's true on the men's side, but it's doubly true on the women's side, as there are no true tag teams. As you look at the whole WWE landscape, the only, I think, tag teams you could say that are appropriately valued at this moment would be the Usos.
Yeah.
Actually pretty deadly. They've done a great job introducing them. Maybe the Brawling Brutes, and then maybe Liv and Raquel on the women's side. But there's not many. There's way more examples of just fly-by-night tag teams or tag teams that are just there to fill up airtime.
Yeah, absolutely. Or people smashed together at a moment's notice that do not click as a tag team at all.
Especially on that women's side, which is doubly bad because that's not only undervaluing your performers. You could talk the sexism maybe at play there too.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but true.
Doug, who else do you got as far as undervalued?
So I wrote this dude's name down. We saw him when we last saw NXT together, like in the pre-pandemic days, right? And he's not had a lot happen since then. Actually, he has had a lot happen. He's been in a couple of groups that have went nowhere, and I see this guy as a potential singles wrestler. I mean, this dude actually moved the ring when we saw him. This is a big dude. I don't think he was going by Mace then, but Mace needs to get the Maximum Male models, get away from that last whatever it was where he was Viva the Revolution or whatever it was, the Revolt, whatever. Push this dude. He is a big dude. He's got a great look. He could definitely be something.
Are you talking about Mace?
No, I'm talking about Mace.
And maybe he's ready for repackaging because obviously they moved Maxine away from that gimmick. Fortunately, LA Knight escaped that gimmick a long time ago. Word is that they're getting ready to repackage both the Maximum Male models, and hopefully in a way that doesn't include the name Maximum Male models.
Right. I mean, this dude, I mean, he's huge.
He's huge.
He's huge. He's got such a great look, and he could be so much, it's it's there, and he's got the big guy moves that not like the Braun Strowman kind of moves or Big Show moves, but he can move, right?
I'm sorry, I like that Braun Strowman impersonation. I'm not sure what that was.
I don't either. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm talking wrestling.
Oh, well, Doug, you talking about somebody that we saw last time we saw NXT. I'm going to do the same.
All
My
right,
next
cool.
pick also was on that show.
Oh, nice.
He has done a lot more than Massey has, but still undervalued everywhere he's gone. Makes no freaking sense to me. Keith Lee, man.
Yes. That's
impressive size and strength, size defying agility. He has this really confident intellectual promo style. He's not a yeller or anything like that, but it draws you in by just like the way he talks. He's got a very unique charisma. This all adds up to a star, which Lee seemed to be when we saw him last. I mean, he was on the Indies. He was a star. In NXT, he was huge. He started Raw strong. It seemed like WWE creative thought similarly when they brought him up, giving him wins over like Randy Orton, I believe, and a few other high profile spots, put him in that Royal Rumble opposite like that moment he had with Brock Lesnar. But then came Bearcat. Then came his release, and then surely Tony Khan would know what to do with him. But it was similar to WWE. He started strong. They had that program with Swerve that was maybe a good introductory program. It ended up being a pretty compelling tag team that they ended up in together. Once they lost the titles to the Acclaim, it's been downhill fast. I mean, Lee is now, as far as I can, if I was to say what he's doing, he's an occasional appearance in a tag team with Dustin Rhodes. I mean, and no offense against Dustin, but Dustin is 54 years old.
Right.
This is not the spot I thought Keith Lee would be in.
No, man, and you're right. Keith Lee is great with the crowd, great in the ring, great on the mic. It's like Smart Hulk when he's cutting a promo, right? It's like Professor Hulk cutting a promo,
Yeah,
because
I always liked the promo guys that didn't do the stereotypical wrestling yell and scream.
Right.
When Jake the Snake cut a
Jake,
promo,
yes,
you leaned in because he was talking so quietly. You wanted to hear what you
quietly and calmly, and he's got that gravel, and he's just like, what's he saying? Yes,
when you're as big as imposing as Keith Lee, you don't have to yell.
Don't have
to
be
scream, scary.
Man. No, you just show up, and it's done.
But it's strange that this is the second straight time on a major promotions roster that the exact same thing's happening to him again. I don't understand it. Undervalued everywhere he's gone. After he saw us, maybe we doomed him.
We doomed him and Mace. Sorry, guys. We'll do better.
Whoops.
man.
Doug, you got another undervalued for me?
I do, and it's funny you mentioned Keith Lee because this fella has been entangled with Keith in the recent past, and you actually called him out. I mean, why are we not doing more with Swerve? Come on. I understand he's got some ROH action going on, but everybody can't see ROH right now. So you see him on AEW occasionally, like on Friday night when he loses to Darby Allin. Darby's had his time to, that's over as far as I'm concerned. Let somebody else have a shot at some time now. But Swerve, come on. He's got the charisma. He's got the talent. Here's another guy, just like Keith Lee. I don't quite get it. At least I think Swerve is doing a little bit more than Keith. I mean, maybe we need to send Keith over to ROH and give him a stable over there. I don't know, but Swerve could be doing so much more, man. I think I just get frustrated about Swerve, man. He should be a future AEW or ROH champion.
I don't know why this surprises me. It shouldn't, but I maybe should be surprised that this was the only one we had in common. But my third pick was also Swerve Strickland for all the reasons you just said. Dude was a star at Defy. He was a former MLW world champion, seemed destined to do the same thing pretty much everywhere he went. He started in NXT as like the leader of like the coolest faction that NXT ever had.
Absolutely.
And really one of the coolest factions that WWE had ever created. And then they got on the main roster and they neutered the act first. And very quickly after that, after making them look weak, they just released them. And then everything I said about Keith Lee holds true for Swerve here too. I thought once Tony Khan got a hold of him, it was going to be different than what we saw with Vince. But just like the Keith Lee arc, the same holds true for Swerve as well. Started out strong, looked good, got those tag belts, the faction. I mean, after that, he ended up leading a faction of two guys who never even wrestled, or who are no longer even with the company.
Right.
Yeah, neither one of them. And now he's with the Mogul Embassy, a group that you have to pay in order to really be familiar with over on the ROH side.
Right.
He's still relied upon on Rampage and things for a good match here and there. But just like you saw with Darby Allin, he lost. With his high flying and his mad expertise, along with that swagger that you just cannot beat someone. Swerve Strickland is worth so much more than apparently WWE or AEW think of him.
I just don't get it. I mean, I know Tony Khan has a lot of toys, but he also has a lot of TV time now. Scott, I think Miro's good right now. Miro's in a good place, being on the CM Punk show on Saturday nights. Yeah, I think Miro's actually on a good place. If he buddies up enough with CM Punk, he might get a main event.
But you are correct that Miro was completely underappreciated in WWE, and right from the get-go in AEW, when he was the best man in a stupid wedding gimmick, it seemed that his fate was sealed in AEW as well. But I do think, oddly enough, this might be one thing we can thank CM Punk for, in that he might actually be the reason that Miro gets a resurrected AEW career, just because thus far they're doing Miro in squash matches on Collision, I think, to try to rebuild some of that lost capital.
Absolutely. And they're really doing a really good job of that too, because that Nick Camarado match from last night, great match, because Camarado is a beast. Dude is huge.
He's thick.
Yes, he's huge. He blindsides Miro, but Miro makes the comeback and takes him down with the quickness. That makes Miro look so much. It's just so strong, so much stronger than he's looked in ages at this point. So I really think, Miro, honestly, I could have put 10, 15 people on my undervalued list.
Yeah, there's way more folks I think that are undervalued than probably that we could agree upon, as far as because there is only so much time. With all the wrestling we say is too much wrestling, and we kid sometimes about how much wrestling there is in the landscape. As far as like star making wrestling, the time you have to actually make legit stars, there's only so many men or women that could be at the top of the card. So every now and then you got to have a strong mid card and an undercard. Some of these folks, though, do not cycle their way up enough and around enough. And yeah, we could go all night on just the undervalued. I think probably where we're going to get into maybe a little more controversy is on who we think is overvalued. And again, this is not always going to be a slam on these men and women.
This is absolutely not a slam. These are opinions, and our position can evolve over time on these wrestlers, because as we've learned in the past, it can definitely do that. Some good booking, some booking that makes sense, a good push, not force feeding like WWE tried to do with Roman Reigns forever. What it took for us to get behind Roman was this whole bloodline thing. Make him a heel. When he comes, it's going to be such a great redemption story. But when he finally does get taken down and comes back as a babyface, it'll be a great redemption story, because that's what they always wanted to get to him as. But
Roman's the perfect example of someone that most wrestling fans would have said, stop pushing him down our throat. You'll see way more in him than we as fans do. And then they position him the right way, and suddenly we're all into the act. So hopefully this changes for the folks that we're about to talk about. But let's talk overvalued. Doug, I will continue to let you lead the way.
All right. So I did an impersonation of him earlier that you really liked, and I don't want to kick a guy while he's down because he is.
I'm pretty sure the impersonation went, oh, I don't know what that was. That was all it was.
That was about it.
Right?
And, I don't get it. Even though he's not on TV right now, when he came back to WWE, he gets his push. He gets placed in these places of prominence. And the only time I've really dug Strowman is when he was bumping heads with Roman Reigns back in the day when they were pushing Reigns down my throat, didn't like it, and Strowman came along and was a foil to that Strowman or to that Reigns baby face that was being pushed. I really liked that then, but I think that had more to do with storyline than actual wrestler or performance. And I'm not kicking the guy while he's down. I know he's injured, he's out, but Strowman, I think, is well, and I think maybe even Triple H or Vince thought this once upon a time because he cut his salary and said, you got to go, just overvalued.
Triple H brought him back.
He did.
Oh,
I don't know what that was. I don't know.
Speaking of things I don't know about, this is someone who is not really a name of the Strowman type, but it's very obvious that the promotion is high on this person, and I am so sorry, but I'm not sure I completely see why. Zoe Starks is talented. This is not a knock on her skill. However, she's yet to really show a lot in the way of charisma, which is why they've paired her with Trish. Again, that's not a slam. That's what you've always done in the wrestling business throughout history is you take the green talent, put them with a mouthpiece if they're not that good, and that's fine as well. But the thing to me that I just don't get is that, she was the one that was graduated from NXT, and NXT right now has such a strong women's division. Roxanne Perez, Cora Jade, Fallon Henry, Kiana James, Tiffany Stratton, all have just as much or more in-ring skill as Zoe, and each of them has more mic and charisma than Zoe. So why did Zoe get to be the one that graduated from NXT and not just advanced? But it's obvious that when you put her with a Hall of Famer like Trish, the whole point is to get Zoe over. And she's got a pinfall victory over, Becky Lynch of all people. Obviously, the promotion sees big things in Zoe. The crowd's reacting to Trish. The crowd is really yet to react to Zoe. So I'm thinking I might not be the only one kind of scratching their heads going, I'm not sure about this. Whatever it is that the promotion sees in her, we have yet to see it. At least not enough in my mind to justify the push that she's getting, or the push as Doug would call it.
For at least this episode, they will be referred to as pushes.
So I apologize to any Zoe Stark fans out there because I almost felt bad about that one because I don't know that one's completely on her. I just think that maybe she's in over her head and put in a position she shouldn't have been put in.
I mean, and again, these aren't calling these people out, as their talent or individuals. It's just where they are in their careers right now. I think, that's just where we are with this. We're looking at where these folks are in their careers right now relative to where we believe they should be.
That's right. And Doug, you got a second one in the overvalued category?
I do, man. The Second City Saint, I'm done with him. I don't need to see this anymore. He should have stayed away, stayed retired. I understand it from a business point of view, what Tony Khan is doing, getting CM Punk back on TV, getting his NDAs with the Bucks and Kenny and all that, so they can't talk about those things that happened at the Brawl Out and All Out. But that scrum still rubs me the wrong way to this day. Seeing him in what I do believe now to be his true nature, and how divisive he is when he comes out now, and how it literally is the CM Punk show. I mean, Collision is a great show, but Punk is beyond his prime. I think, unfortunately, I saw that when we saw Punk and Joe. Go back and watch those old matches. They're not what we got like a couple of Saturdays ago. it just Punk frustrates me at this point, so I put him on the list.
Yeah, I'm going to mix my list up here because I was saving him to last. But while we're talking about CM Punk, absolutely, this one may be a little too easy because I think a lot of fans now are over CM Punk.
He is low hanging fruit, but my last one
Yeah,
may end up being controversial, so I wanted to put Punk ahead of my last one.
that's all right. I've cheated. I've got an extra one that's somewhere in between the overvalued and undervalued, but I'm saving that one to last. But CM Punk definitely needs to be on there, and this is coming from someone who appreciates Punk's work as well as his history. That history cannot be taken away. Those matches that he had with the likes of Jericho and Cena and such, not to mention his Ring of Honor, like those things hold up. And it's not like his skills on the mic have faded. And you were right, he's not what he was, but it's not like he's awful in the ring either. I mean, for his age, he's not what he was at his prime. It's just still miles beyond. He's miles beyond what the average wrestler is. That's not the reason he's on my list. His placement on this is not his, as far as being overvalued when you consider his age, the fact that he is past his prime, if not on the mic, at least in the ring. You combine that, though, with him being a cancer in the locker room, then Tony Khan is just completely overestimating CM Punk's current value compared to the baggage that is the downside that comes along with CM Punk. We talked about it last week some, and actually we'll be prepared to do that even more when we have a special show in August all about Punk. But Punk is Collision, as you said. Last night's show now makes it 5 of 6 main events that Punk has been in on Collision, and that 6th one, he was still the center of it, even though he wasn't the one in the ring. It still was about him. So it's just too much Punk, too much drama to have a wrestler. You have to book the shows around in order to not have World War III break out in your locker room. That is overvaluing what one man brings to the table, even if that man is a CM Punk caliber athlete.
Punk, definitely a legend. There's it's just frustrating. this man that the voice of the voiceless is a very thin-skinned fella at the end of the day who just can't let things go and fumes on them for months and then explodes and really explodes, and that behavior is toxic.
Speaking of the thin skin, we're about to see it because we're having a show in August where we're going to call him out, and I just can't wait to see which one of us gets the call from Pepsi Doug.
Yes. Oh, wait.
You have a controversial one, so I can go first if you want to save it, or I'll let you go with your last one.
Yeah, I'm not sure how controversial this is. I mean, because this dude gets huge pops now. He's got pops ever since he came back to WWE. He's loved by a lot, but there's some behavior of his that I have a problem with, and I've had a problem with for quite a while. My position could evolve, but Cody Rhodes, way overvalued. Ooh. Cody Rhodes is only in the position he is in now because he was an AEW VP. He helped found AEW, and he was a massive get for WWE if they could bring somebody from AEW over to their side of the street. And that alone makes Cody, way overvalued, because now they have to push Cody, who is not a bad wrestler. Yeah, I know, right? I told you, Scott.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you on this one, Scott. I got your back, bro.
I've been wanting to vent about this since Cody left AEW. And here's my chance. But I think yes, Cody has the Rhodes name. Yeah, Cody has a pretty good brain for the business. But Cody will probably be the one to unthrone Roman Reigns, but only because he got himself a sweet deal, because he was able to work Tony Khan against Vince McMahon, and Vince McMahon threw a lot of money at him just so all these smart marks like us would know, oh, he left. He came back. He came back after all that. And there he is again.
So did you feel he was overrated and overvalued in AEW?
Yeah, I really felt that Cody was part of the elite because he just attached himself to the elite. Yeah, and
Oh man, we got some Cody Rhodes hate coming out here. It's good. It's good.
but
Tell us how you feel. That's all right.
I mean, I think poor Hangman is looked at like the the low man on the elite totem pole, but Cody was like the coattails guy there. He had the smart brain, he had the Rhodes name, but
Had
and
the
he's
neck
not that
tattoo.
and that neck tattoo, man. If
I will say he overvalued that neck tattoo. I will.
way over. If that had started a sleeve, it might be a little bit more acceptable, but it just looks ridiculous. But yeah, Cody Rhodes. That's my last one.
I gotta say that while I don't agree with you on that one,
That's okay.
I give you kudos for the balls to go there, because that is definitely a controversial selection. And in fact, I think more controversial than my last overvalued, because I think this is one you probably saw coming. Darby Allin.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I not the first time I've mentioned this on our show, is why I thought Doug would particularly see it coming. And to be truthful and completely honest with you all here, I used to not be a fan at all, but I admit I have a lot more respect for Darby now than I have in the past. He's had some really good matches that's converted me a little bit. Doesn't mean that I think that his place on the card or that the value they put in his storylines makes sense to me. And I will explain, because yes, it is his lack of size, but I'm not one of those Vince McMahon types that thinks everyone's got to be huge and all that. It's his wrestling style combined with that size that makes it hard for me to suspend my belief while I watch. I don't mind undersized wrestlers at all, but you have to fight like you're undersized. Rey Mysterio, of course, is that classic example. Rey would take a beating because he should against a Kevin Nash or something, but he would use his small size to be quick, outmaneuver, outlast his opponents. Darby's style is more based on what he's willing to put his body through, which again, I'm not knocking the person for that, because it's dangerous what he does. And I'm not even knocking that style of wrestling. I know Mick Foley was once called a glorified stuntman by Ric Flair, of all people, and due respect to Flair, the legend was wrong. What made Foley's character work is, yes, he go to great lengths to hurt himself, if it also meant hurting his opponent, but he also had the size that made you think he could absorb some of that. And he also had a character that seemed like there was a screw loose. Does he feel pain? For Darby, he's more of a, he takes risk, but somehow he has an offense that belies his size, and he's able to, hurt guys by hurting himself, even though he doesn't have enough weight to hurt somebody by throwing himself. It's the combination of his style and his size that makes him just a sad goth that takes risk.
I think it's weird, because we talk about how positions evolve, right? You've slightly come around to Darby, but not enough to get him off your overvalued list. Yeah, I started really liking Darby. We started out day one. It's like, no, this kid's cool, man. The kid may be cool, but having a high pain tolerance is not all there is to being a great professional wrestler. And you're right. He goes out of his way, and clearly, in my head when you're talking about him, I'm thinking Mick Foley, but you're right. Mick has all these other attributes where Darby, I've just grown. I don't know. I want to say maybe Darby needs a refresher or something like that, because he's been hanging out with his like old dad Sting. It's like, here comes Darby and his dad down to the ring again. I don't quite understand that push. And now push, sorry. And now he's moved. And now he's moved on to buddy up with Punk.
That's not going to do him any favors either in either of our minds. I know. I didn't realize that you'd come a little bit around on Darby, but I mean, and fine wrestler for what it is. I think he just needs to work a slightly different style. And I agree with you. At this point, I'm not sure the affiliation with Sting helps him as much as it hurts him. And I don't know, mid card, I wouldn't probably have this problem with him, but he's pushed like he's one of the four pillars, as they say.
Yeah.
And I know it was a storyline comment last night on Collision, but it rang true to my ears. It's correct in my mind. Ricky Starks has more of what it takes to be considered one of those 4 young guys who might be the future of AEW.
Yes.
More so, in my opinion, than Darby Allin does.
Yes. Yes. I agree. Yeah.
No, I'm actually surprised.
I've evolved. I mean, yeah, he absolutely, he would have absolutely,
but getting wins, convincing wins over bigger opponents and bigger stars, it's hard for me to buy.
Yeah, I mean, he uses his body as a weapon, and my goodness, he's taken some ridiculous bumps. But I don't know. It's just become tired. I've just become tired of it. It's just
okay, good. It's not just me then. I'm glad that
I mean, we started out at complete opposites on this, but somehow we've met in the middle now.
yeah. I like him more. You like him less. We've met in the middle. Actually, that might be a good spot to end this on, because I know I told you 3 and 3, but I'm going heel and cheating here because I have a bonus.
Do it.
And the reason I had a bonus is it's somebody I wanted to put on my list, and I had her on the undervalued list, and then I had her on the overvalued list, and I'm like, well, how can she be both? I have a tweener here, and I want your take on it once I give my reasons why and see if you agree or disagree.
Okay.
Ronda Rousey.
Oh, yeah.
You can argue her both ways. She is undoubtedly the biggest marquee name in the history of women's combat sports. She brought this legit capital to the wrestling ring. The women's revolution would have happened regardless of whether she was involved, but there's no doubt that it happened faster because of her involvement. She was the primary reason women finally got that main event slot at WrestleMania. That the hardcore fan, that might not be the reason we wanted that WrestleMania main event, but there's no doubt that her box office potential that Vince saw in her was the reason that he booked that main event. And in fact, she was also at the beginning really believable and exciting to watch when she made her transition to pro wrestling. However, with all of that, why does Ronda why doesn't she feel like a bigger deal right now? I mean, she's never meant less in the wrestling world. You could argue that the company is undervaluing her by not pushing her, but I would say that she also just seems less interested.
That's what I think.
She used to have this like palpable like passion for wrestling that seems to maybe have evaporated. And to me, more importantly, is that in-ring development. Like, she started out like strong, showing all this promise. And I would argue that not only has she not really improved, I would argue that you could look at her last handful of matches and say she's even regressed.
And I wonder
in-ring sales.
And I really wonder, because she was fresh when she came in. It was amazing to see that transfer so quickly. And you're right, she had the big name recognition coming in, tons of eyes on the sport. But I think she soured once she realized what it was about. That people. I mean, that she's going to get booed. There are going to be people who legit don't like her. There are going to be people who view her as not earning her spot. And, I think she did earn her spot. She just happened to earn it in a legitimate combat sport and then cross a bridge over into the sport. It's not like she didn't pay her dues, but, in a bunch of, wrestling fans, internet trolls, who ran about Cody Rhodes and how he left AEW. And is overvalued, but along the same lines, they're going to do the same thing with Ronda, saying, why does she get this push? What about your Sasha Banks? What about your, any of your 4 horsewomen? She's taken their spot, or any of these talented women on NXT. You get that. So
it may not hurt my my putting her somewhere here, like not knowing what to do with her. That her reputation with the other, she's not just one of the girls backstage. And I think that might have hurt her from the beginning too. She never was able to assimilate, not because she didn't pay dues. She just paid them elsewhere.
Right.
I just think she's a bit of a loner and a bit of a moody person who's maybe not the easiest to get along with. And again, kudos to her for going and having a family, starting a family. But whenever she came back, she just didn't seem to have that same passion that she had any longer. And it kind of shows in her work. So I don't know if this one's I really didn't know what to do with her. You have Ronda Rousey. She should be a big deal. And now she's just another person on the roster and not even someone that fans really react to strongly one way or the other. How did this happen? So yes, she's somewhere in the middle for me. She's a bit of a mystery.
Yeah, I can see that. I almost put her on my overvalued list, but at the end of
You
the
can
day,
argue it both ways.
you really can. You really
Yep.
can. So I can totally see that.
Okay, good. You allowed me to cheat. I threw in an extra. I went all heel. Doug.
That's all right. I just cut a really ridiculous promo on Cody Rhodes.
Let's hit that big finish. Tell
Let's
everybody
do it.
what they need to see this week, or maybe don't see.
Let's
Let's
do
go
it.
botch of the week first.
Botch of the week first. You going first? You want me to go first? Who's going first here?
I'll go first on this one just because it actually ties into one of the folks I mentioned earlier about being undervalued. A Viking match.
Uh-huh.
On Monday Night Raw, we had a Viking match, which was essentially just a no holds barred, anything goes, normal hardcore kind of contest with some Viking imagery and ships and shields and Viking helmets and just nonsense is what it was. And that is why War Machine isn't War Machine and instead is an undervalued talent on my list is for just crap like that. Viking match, botch of the week for me.
All right, so I'll go with somebody who was on my list earlier and bring them in a bigger style here, because not just him, not just Punk, not just because Collision is so much the Punk show, and again from a business perspective, I get what Tony is doing, but good Lord, I felt like I was watching an episode of Raw where everybody comes out and talks, then somebody else comes out and talks, and then somebody else comes out and talks, then some ridiculous main event is made that makes no sense. And of course, Punk has to get in the mix, and I'm not sure who's the babyface, who's the heel, because everybody's loving Ricky Starks. Punk comes out, cuts a heel promo on the audience, then tries to play babyface. I don't know what's going on. All that whole opening segment on Collision, which led to that whole ending segment, because you've got people like Punk and Darby, who I've evolved on, and Ricky Starks is just screaming to be a baby face and let him run with it. Everybody loves him. What are you doing? Don't put him against Punk.
He'd been a heel for a long time, and it was a very natural feeling babyface turn because the fans wanted to get behind him. And now suddenly you're trying to make him a heel again just because CM Punk thinks he's still a babyface. Maybe I don't know what I don't get it either, man.
And then he comes out and cuts that. I mean, and I think that goes back to what I was talking about earlier. Punk is legit thin skinned. Half that audience may be yay Punk, but half of it's also booing him, and so he turns on the entire audience. What are you doing, dude? Get some medication. Come on. All right.
Yeah.
That's What else you got?
Positive.
What about? Yes, let's do some plus. What are you got? Match? We got performer. Which one you want to do first?
Let's go performer.
All right. So this one's hard. I've got to, but I'm going to go with MJF because I have not been giving him the love that he is needed. He and Adam Cole both have been doing some stellar character work, which is absurd. But to see young Max start to play that character again, where he's got a friend, he's got a buddy, but of course, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was to, convince everyone that he didn't exist. That's what MJF is doing, because you saw that on Dynamite after they win their one of those ridiculous tournaments that they're in together. They come out as a real tag team. Matching outfits, love it. They've got the combo like double clothesline, which I love. But then afterwards, when Cole goes to grab the belt and give it back to Max, and then he has that lingering moment where he's like, "Oh wait, this is kind of why I'm here," and then Max just turns. All that has been great, and I wanted to acknowledge it because it's almost over, because we're going to get FTR and Adam Cole and MJF in a tag team next Saturday night. What is Collision doing? I mean, but I just had to give a nod to MJF.
So wait a minute, and all of that goodness around your performers of the week, I didn't. Maybe I missed it. Where did the dance off place in all of that?
I'm ignoring that. That part I'm ignoring.
Okay,
I don't know what you're talking about. It didn't happen. My DVR must have dropped out for a bit. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's right. And I had a hard time with Performer of the Week too, so I'm cheating again. I got a male and female, and I'll be
Okay.
quick about both. On the men's
Okay.
side, because I think it's for similar reasons, and it is things happened this last week that are taking each of these people to the next level. Kudos to Dom Dom, your new North American champion.
Okay.
Ending,
Dom
yeah,
Dom was it was the tie between Dom and MJF, but I
there you
had to,
go, man.
yeah,
I'm glad that you see it that way too. I
absolutely.
don't know. Has anyone outside of MJF been getting the kind of great heat that Dom has got the last 5-6 months? I
Absolutely
mean,
not,
serious.
man.
And he hasn't done as much in the ring. Maybe like his character work is what's done it. What's going to
Yes.
take him to the next level is being a singles champion.
Uh-huh.
And of course, he couldn't do that without cheating and without mommy's help, which is perfect for the heel role that he plays. Wesley's time probably was, time for him to pass that along.
Right.
Wes has been great. I don't know that he won't get it back in relative short order, but I think this is going to move Dom up to the next. This is the singles championship he needed.
Agreed. Yeah, because I felt I really just needed to call out and get MJF and probably Cole too for all the work they've been
Oh
doing.
yeah.
But MJF just to see that quick turn again, and
Yeah, that dog
as,
that's like, friendly until you take the bone that's his bone.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
But
that
Dom,
quick. Yeah.
yeah, I had MJF slash Dom and then a question mark because I was just gonna yell one out when we got to it. So
Well, good. We got them both covered, and I'm
I'm
going to
glad.
throw in. I'm doing double duty because last week I know I called out Willow Nightingale for winning the
Love
Owen
Willow.
tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Willow though continues to shine in every big opportunity she's found herself in this year, whether that was winning the Owen or going up against Sasha Banks, the former
Mm-hmm.
Sasha Banks, in the very first headline women's match New
Yes.
Japan ever had,
Yes.
to Friday night when she did the same thing by delivering yet again in the first main event women's match that Ring of Honor ever had.
Mm-hmm.
I might be talking about that more here in a few minutes, but Willow Nightingale she is minted as a star.
Yes, love me some Willow Nightingale. I will
Doug,
not. So here we
match.
go. So I'm probably considered an AEW shield, big major fanboy, especially for that Cody Rhodes rant I just went on earlier. But
Yeah, you're on the naughty list now. Oh, actually, no. Tony probably liked that. You're
yeah,
probably not involved in the non-disclosure.
but I'm going to call out and say, match wise, I do not like these kind of matches. They are more spectacle. They are more car wreck than anything. However, for the punishment, well, except for Kota Ibushi, Kota didn't do much. I hate to say it. There wasn't a lot of pain that Kota went through unless you've seen the after show where Kota just decides to start doing backdrops onto the glass and tacks for no reason. Which is hilarious, but I don't know why he's doing it. Even Kenny Omega's looking at him like, dude, what are you doing? But I'm digressing. What these guys put themselves through has to be recognized. Every single one of those performers, even Kota Ibushi. I mean, I was joking earlier. Even Kota Ibushi, even though he really didn't seem to take as much damage as others. Both Blackpool, the Elite, the Golden Elite, straight up legit Golden Elite, you have to be recognized for the punishment you're willing to put your body through for your craft, for the entertainment of others. I thought the ending was clunky, but overall, what these guys did, I cannot go without acknowledging them this week. I have a feeling you're going to go another way.
Well, I was actually going to mention this match, but not for the reasons that you are, and I'm glad because honestly, you and I are so much the same kind of wrestling fan that sometimes I'm
Yes.
like, we don't disagree enough. So I'm happy to say,
Good.
Doug, you ignorant slut. Oh, that's an
Very
L
nice.
reference.
Very nice.
I know the Blood and Guts had all the elements. It had a long run time, big stars, the debut in ring of Kota Ibushi, of course, Blood and Guts, and then more Blood and Guts. Just something about it actually didn't add up to being the sum of all those parts, and maybe it's just the fact that the two of the Hill faction just kind of walked off voluntarily before the
Right.
match was over, or as you said, the ending with Yuta not really submitting, but the match was just kind of over. Actually, my DVR cut off and I had to go watch it on YouTube because it was a little bit of an over. So like just something about it, and maybe it's just that AEW tends to overdo the multi-person
Yes.
spectacle matches.
They do, and they're getting to a point where everybody's protected, and I'm not sure I like that. People need to have some losses because, you know, the Blackpool was protected because they had two like heels with them that just walked out on them,
Yeah,
so they're
yeah,
protected because it's not a fair fight that they had. They're a man down with Brian being out of commission right now. They get some hired guns to come in that just walk out on them. So and then the ending was kind of awkward where Wheeler's, did he tap out? Did he pass out? Oh no, Moxley just surrendered to save him. I you're telling a awkward story. It was just clunk. The ending was clunky, but again, I felt I had to acknowledge what all those people put themselves through, except
it
Mox.
just
I mean,
didn't.
that's
Yeah, it
another
just
Wednesday night
didn't.
for Mox,
Yeah, that's a day at home for Mox.
right?
But I mean, yes, they definitely put themselves through it. I don't know why I wanted to like it more than what I did. What I did really like, and maybe it's just the traditional aspect of like it's what I wanted more than that big spectacle kind of thing. But Willow Nightingale, I know I kind of tip my hat, but Willow Nightingale versus Athena for the ROH Women's Championship at Death Before Dishonor is my match of the week. Sometimes less is more, and these two just didn't need the bells and whistles of a blood and guts style spectacle. They just put on a very entertaining back and forth pro wrestling match that pulled the crowd in the farther it went along. They used psychology, they used personality, they used in-ring work that kept calling back to all the women who had been on that roster before. So you had Sarah in there, you had Mischief in there, you had Sumi Sakai's moves in there. They were doing deliberate callbacks to the history of women's wrestling and Ring of Honor. And all of this they did while bringing the crowd to a boil. There was some false finishes at the end that seemed legit. They did this as also two African-American women main eventing in an industry that can be still both sexist and racist, and they blew the roof. They delivered Pro Wrestling 101. They simply delivered, and it was a match that I would recommend all wrestling fans go check out if you did not check out Death Before Dishonor.
Yeah, I have not seen any of Death Before Dishonor yet, but it's on my list of wrestling to watch at some point.
How long is that list?
It's very, very, very long.
And speaking of that long list of things to watch, fans, we had not originally figured this into our schedule, but lo and behold, when I started to pull out the calendar and see when exactly NXT's pay-per-view was they keep talking about, hey, guess what? It's next Sunday night.
Oh.
We will not be going live against the NXT Great American Bash pay-per-view. Actually, is it Great American? Is it Stand and Deliver? I think it's Stand and Deliver. Yeah, I think they just had Great American Bash. Anyway, NXT is live on Peacock at 8. Pre-game with us. Our show is going to be on an hour early. We are going to be talking SummerSlam, and we're going to give a full preview of everything you can expect of the biggest party of the summer. And there's actually a lot of really intriguing storyline elements coming to head for SummerSlam. So I think we'll have a good discussion about it. We hope you join us. Again, Absolutely. An hour earlier than normal. If you watch us live, if you catch us on replay, you'll find us as you always do. We will be here for you, and we thank you for being there for us and tuning into the Two Bros Wrestling Show for yet another week.
Good night, everybody. Go watch some wrestling.
Thanks, guys.